I'm Comet the Duck. This is our very first deep dive story. God leads me on a quest, chasing a story. At first, the terrain seems familiar, but then the landscape shifts again and again, mid-draft. I live that adventure with a keyboard in my hands. The story grows, twists and turns, and in the end, the story stands alive, perched like a bird between me and him. This deep dive started when he said, "The story you're planning for video 2? That's a good story. But there's another story hiding in there. Look closer at the words of your question." 25 minutes of video about the choice of words in one question? Honestly, that sounded boring. But I know him. If he said there's a story there, then there is. So I grinned. I grabbed my computer and my keyboard and I jumped up, ready to follow him. In fact, I was so excited that I raced ahead of him. I opened my computer. I thought, first I'm going to write video 2 really fast. Then I can use that as a basis, a jumping off point to dive with him into the meaning of the question. I began with a very short outline. A friend said, "Why not just ask God if he's there?" And eventually I asked. Now I needed the building blocks, facts, emotions, scenes, and all the little details that add color and character to the story. I reached for my memories, and then the unexpected happened. My memories kept slipping away. What? My memory usually works just fine. Why was it doing this now? I got a sinking feeling because this is a story that's not in my journal. I needed those memories. My imagination stepped in, trying to help. It gave me a picture of winter dead branches in the foreground. Beyond them, a wall of fog. Whenever I try to focus on anything, a shape in the mist, a detail, the fog would swirl and swallow it. But it wasn't random. The fog specifically closed in on whatever I looked at. None of this made sense. But I was focused on writing that video too. I can be stubborn. I wasn't willing to give up. I just looked for a way to power right through the fog. I had an idea. When I talk with God, I often feel my way through words until one set clicks. It feels solid and true. Could I do the same with my memories? Imagine different versions of what might have happened and then wait for one to click? Of course, that would take time. A lot of time. It wasn't an ideal solution. God was sending me clues, but I wasn't listening. I figured maybe I could find a shortcut. With a good conversation partner, maybe we could think of various scenarios faster. I knew of a good one. ChatGPT. It doesn't get tired of my endless questions, and it's great at brainstorming. Maybe together we could find my missing memories. First, I explained what I knew to ChatGPT. I was deep in the fog, so there were gaps and a lot of guesses. A friend said I might want to ask, "God, if you're there, could you show me in a way I can't miss?" It was a good question, simple and clear. But I knew that even if God answered, "Yes, I'm here," it wouldn't convince me. My mind would just whisper, "That's a coincidence, a hallucination, psychosis." There was no way I'd believe just one answer. So asking him like that didn't seem fair. I needed something more solid, a pattern or a few signs. Something whispered inside me, "What if he actually answers? Don't waste your question." I saw an image in my mind, a genie in a bottle. except not with 3 wishes, but ready to answer a single question. And I nearly blurted out, "Are you a real genie?" That's exactly the kind of foolish question people ask in fairy tales, and then they've wasted the one chance they were given. It was smarter to ask something important. If the genie answers, the person gets their answer and confirmation that the genie's real. I turned inward. What do I want to know more than anything? And from deep inside me came an answer full of longing. Him. I want to know him. I didn't believe God was there, but if he was, then knowing him would require more than one sign. That made it fair. I tried to find the right words. What came out was rough. God, if you exist, I want to get to know you. I knew it needed editing, but before I could polish it, I felt a sense of urgency. Ask now, without delay. Part of me protested. Wait, there's not even a question mark. But another part insisted, if he's there, he'll understand what it means. And so I acted, even if it was raw, clumsy, and unfinished. That was the question I asked. I finished typing my overview. Now I could start exploring possible scenarios with ChatGPT and maybe begin to recover my memories. But before I jumped in, I paused. I remembered something that I'd been forgetting. I made space for God. I invited him to be present. Then I kept my mind open just in case he had something to say. My thoughts circled back to the 2 versions of the question. Honestly, I didn't see much difference between them. Whimsically, I wondered if ChatGPT would see more than me. So I asked, and ChatGPT answered candidly, "Here's what stands out to me. The first question, God, do you exist, centers on proof that would satisfy your mind's need for certainty. It's a test, a challenge to God to answer in a way that's undeniable." A challenge? That made me nervous. Challenging God? That didn't feel safe. But ChatGPT kept going. The second question, the one you asked, God, if you exist, I want to get to know you, shifts the focus. It goes from seeking proof to seeking relationship. And that's when my mind pushed back. Fast, defensive, sharp-edged. What? A relationship? No way, that's not what I said. I asked a simple question about proving his existence. It was an elegant science experiment to figure out if God exists. But then I paused and faced the issue with honesty. Had I reached for a connection to God? My mind fought that idea. There wasn't even a question mark. I shared my doubts with ChatGPT and it said, it's possible to have a question without a question mark. Had I asked about a relationship with God? I'm not sure why this bothered me so much. I mean, I've been with him for more than 2 years now. Why should my mind be overwhelmed? But it was. This was far too much. My mind couldn't hold it all. So I decided to back off for a while. I didn't walk away, I switched gears. I chose to work on a different video, 3B. The topic was just as big, but right then it felt easier to face. I was about to make a critical decision. Would I believe in his existence or not? And then out of nowhere, a clear memory surfaced, bright against the fog. Just before I made my final decision, God spoke to me wordlessly. He said, "Before you decide, in honor, I must remind you. If you choose yes, you made a promise that goes with that yes. I trust you to keep your word. So if you choose to believe that I'm here, that means keeping your promise." I was confused. A promise? I didn't remember making a promise. I asked him, "What did I promise?" He explained, "You said if I was there, you'd chat with me. You said you'd get to know me." At first, I was taken aback. I didn't know that I was making a promise, but he heard one? I wasn't sure how I felt about that. It seemed like a big thing to be making commitments to God. I started to wonder how many others had I made without knowing. That thought made me feel uneasy. But this one that he said I made, he was treating it like it mattered. I wasn't sure what to do. But then I focused on the promise itself, and the tension eased. A promise to chat with him? I yearned to chat with him. Get to know him? Yeah, I definitely wanted to get to know him. My heart lit up and I laughed. If that's what I had promised, then yes, absolutely. I meant that promise with all of me. A few minutes later, when I made my choice to believe that he was there, I knew that it also meant I'd try to chat with him. I'd do my best to get to know him. But even so, something lingered. I made a promise to him without being aware of it. That concerned me. I needed to understand, when had I made such a promise? Suddenly suspicious, I turned to ChatGPT. Is it possible to have a promise hidden inside a question? ChatGPT didn't hesitate. Yes, absolutely, especially when the question comes from a place of longing. That was a lot to take in. This time, I didn't try to escape. I had to go back and find out what I really said. I needed to analyze the words in the question. God, if you exist, I want to get to know you. At the time, it felt straightforward, though rough. Well, time to look at it more closely now. Time to get out my magnifying glass. The first part is, if you exist. That's based on the original question, God, are you there? It's rational and cautious. Then I added my friend's modification. God, if you exist, please show me in a way I can't miss. There was a lot packed in there that I didn't say aloud. It was clear to me that a single answer wouldn't be enough, so in a way I can't miss was a request for multiple answers. But I was careful to not be too specific. I was intentional about giving God the freedom to choose how to answer, if he wished to answer. I remembered that nudge. Don't waste the question, make it count. My mind had asked itself, what do I really want to know? But then it realized that wanting was a feeling word. Wanting is what the heart does. And with that, my mind had turned to my heart. What do you really want, heart? My heart's response had been immediate. At first, not even in words. The heart came out with a deep longing that had gnawed at me for as long as I could remember. Then my heart finally found a word. Him. I want to know him. My heart wasn't trying to study God or make sure of his existence. It already believed he was there. My heart wanted the impossible. Not a God to put on a pedestal, not theology with rules to follow. No, my heart wanted a friend. Sure, it made no sense to want friendship with someone so large, but my heart wasn't concerned with logic. It simply said, God, I want to chat with you, walk with you, follow you. Whoa, that was a lot. I turned to ChatGPT. Those are all statements. Is there a question in there somewhere? Immediately, ChatGPT answered, yes, of course there is. But it's not stated, it's implicit. When you say, I want to get to know you, it's a relational question. A question? Where? And What's a relational question? ChatGPT answered, it takes two to form a relationship. When you say that you want to get to know someone, it implies you're asking, do you want to get to know me too? Because knowing someone isn't something you can do alone. It only works if they want it too. I was starting to see. My heart said, God, do you want to be friends with me? If you want that too, please show me in a way I can't miss, because I care a lot and I sure don't want to miss your answer if you give me one. And that was very relational. Two questions in one statement that didn't even have a question mark? One from the mind. Do you exist? Show me in complex, logical ways. One from the heart. If you do exist, can we be friends? And please come close enough so I don't miss your answer. All of a sudden, I started to get why there had been so much fog. When I looked at the mind's question, the heart's half was missing. When I looked at the heart's longings, the mind's half disappeared. No wonder the fog swirled and never cleared. No wonder I couldn't grasp my memories. They were asking totally different questions. They were speaking in different languages. And it took both languages to create the meaning of my question. My heart and my mind had cooperated to create the message. To retrieve the memories, they had to cooperate again. Now I started listening to my memories in both languages at the same time. The mind with its clarity and careful logic, the heart with its ache and vulnerability. The fog was evaporating in the sun. My memories were no longer hiding. Finally, I was finding the details I needed to write video too. But this story, it wasn't over. Something was still pulling at me. Oh yeah, the promise. It had appeared bright, right in the middle of the fog. It came just as I was learning that the mind and heart each had their own language. So the promise and the languages had to be connected. And since both mind and heart spoke, was there one promise or two? With the fog lifting, a scene came back to me. I had been determined to avoid being transactional. I was not going to treat God like a vending machine. My mind said, I'll ask him if he's there, and I'll run that like a science experiment. I'll see if he answers. I'll judge the results. I don't believe he's there, so I'll be hard to convince. But I will stay open, and I will be fair. The mind was offering a quiet courage. A yes answer would overturn its entire world, and still it promised integrity. Integrity made a difference. My mind said, I'm not holding my current view above all others. If I see evidence, I'll change my choice. And that promise of fairness changed the meaning of the question. The question could have been a challenge to God. If you exist, show me, and do it in a way I can't miss. But the promise made by the mind changed the tone. God, I'm really asking if you're there. I'm open. I'm willing to listen. And when I say in a way I can't miss, I'm not telling you what to do. I'm just explaining my limits because I want to be sure I'm being fair. That promise made space for God's voice. It was an invitation to dialogue, and that was huge. The mind's message wasn't just the question. The promise was needed to complete the mind's message. Had my heart also made a promise? I dug deeper. This one wasn't obvious because it didn't come in mind language. At first, it just seemed like a wish. I want to get to know you. A promise to want something? That made no sense, so I sat with it for a while. Then I remembered an exchange between my mind and my heart on the day I created the question. The heart said, I want to chat with him, be friends with him. I don't know if it's possible, but it's worth everything to me. Even if it makes no sense, I'll give it my best try. The mind had challenged the heart. Is that really what you want? Not health, wealth, wisdom, or success? And the heart had been most clear. No. If I can have him for a friend, none of those matter. And I don't need him to fix things. If he's by my side, that's all I need. The mind teased. All your eggs in one basket? And the heart answered with joy. Yes, all of them. Every single one. It was bold, ridiculous even. It was the kind of thing that made the mind roll its eyes. You think you're going to be friends with God? The heart, a little defensive, answered honestly, I know it doesn't make sense. He's invisible and huge. I'm not saying I will get to know him. I'm just saying I want to. I'm not the one in charge. He is. I don't know if it can happen. All I can do is promise to try. And with that promise, the heart too was making space for God, giving him an invitation and offering him respect. God heard everything I said. He understood my 2 questions without a question mark. He listened to what each part of me expressed. He even noticed what I didn't say, the promises and the space they were making for him, especially those. And he joined the conversation. He answered my mind with evidence, impossible details that formed a pattern, proofs that his presence is real and not merely imagined, enough proofs to leave me gaping in wonder. He answered my heart's longing more gently, first with ducks, birds with no teeth, so that I wouldn't be afraid. And then he stayed. He didn't leave. And each time my heart noticed him, it lit up with joy. He didn't limit himself to words alone, nor just to the language of the mind and the heart. He also spoke through beauty, warmth, possibilities. He chatted with me through metaphors and imagination. He guided me through my inner sense of right and wrong. He communicated through a deep knowing and offered me invitations to join him on adventures. To sign his messages, he used impossible coincidences and perfectly timed moments. I put all my eggs in one basket. And then all of me asked in a chorus, can we chat? Can we be friends? And his answer came back joyfully clear. Yes, we can. Looking back, it would have been easy to treat those promises as small things. Just a little honesty from the mind, just the heart saying it would try. But he saw something far bigger. I now see the magnitude of that moment, how deeply he chose to respect those promises. He treated them like they were solid, like they carried weight. That kind of respect from him, to be trusted by God. He trusted me far more than I would have trusted myself, and that changed something in me. Within those promises, he heard an invitation. And maybe that's the real secret. For a God who does not force, being invited means a lot. And he treated those invitations like treasure. That's the joy I carry with awe. Not just that he's real, but that he listens to all of me, values every part of me, answers every part of me, and chooses friendship.